There is a silence inside you, a waiting. You feel it sometimes, late at night when the world quiets down. It is a question that refuses to leave. And you? When will you begin that long journey into yourself? With these intriguing words, Rumi, the 13th century mystic, pierces right through our defenses. He speaks not to our minds, but to the weary soul underneath. He tells us to turn inward, to start walking into the dark of our own being, to find what we are actually here for. And it isn't money. It isn't the shiny things we chase until our feet bleed. For Rumi, the answer is far more terrifying and far more beautiful: love. He suggests we were not dropped into this world by accident. No, we were sent with a specific hunger, a calling planted deep in the marrow of our bones. He says, everyone has been made for some particular work, and the desire for that work has been put in every heart. Let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. Silently drawn. Think about that. It's not a shout, it's a whisper, a gravity. In Rumi's view, if we follow this gravity, this pull of love, we stumble upon our purpose. It is an unconditional, almost divine love that leads to an awakening. He believed that by loving fully, whether you are loving a craft, a person, or the divine itself, you fulfill the very reason you breathe. Life, to Rumi, is not a straight line. It is a circle, a journey of the soul returning to its source, desperate and wild, like a river crashing over rocks just to find the sea. When we do that particular work our heart craves, we stop fighting the current. We resonate with the universe's own rhythm. It is a beautiful thought. It paints purpose as a love story. The more we love, the closer we get to the truth. Rumi invites us to trust this mystery, to trust our own longing. He says, what you seek is seeking you. So listen, the heart speaks in whispers. Your passions, your talents, those strange things you love that make no sense to anyone else, they are not accidents. They are breadcrumbs. They are the map. Athens, the dust of the marketplace, the noise of buyers and sellers, and there, walking barefoot, was Socrates. He was the father of Western philosophy, but he didn't preach from a high tower. He walked among the people. He was a gadfly, a nuisance to some. He stopped strangers, looking them in the eye, and asked questions that made them uncomfortable. Simple questions, dangerous questions. What is virtue? What is justice? He stripped away their certainty. He made them look at the emptiness of their own answers. And for this, for making people think, he was sentenced to death. He famously declared at his trial, "The unexamined life is not worth living." A heavy sentence, a brutal truth. For Socrates, to just exist, to eat, sleep, work, and die without asking why, is a tragedy. It is to sleepwalk to the grave. The purpose of life is to wake up, to examine ourselves, to examine the world. We must seek truth and wisdom with the desperation of a drowning man seeking air. He didn't care for wealth. He didn't care for fame. Those are shadows. Socrates valued virtue. He valued the soul. He compared himself to a midwife, but instead of delivering babies, he helped others give birth to wisdom. And birth is painful. It requires labor. It requires screaming. By questioning everything, by engaging in dialogue until the sun went down, he believed we get closer to what is real. Socrates chose to drink the hemlock, to die for his principles, rather than live a lie. The trial of Socrates teaches us something profound. To live without seeking truth is a betrayal of the soul. In simple terms, we find meaning by asking the hard questions, by learning, by refusing to be ignorant. To live well is to live an examined life, a thoughtful life. It means we understand why we do what we do. It is accessible to anyone. You don't need to be a scholar. You don't need to be a scholar. You just need to be honest. Through curiosity, through the courage to look in the mirror and ask, "Who am I?" Socrates promises a life that actually matters, a life rich with purpose, because we built it with our own understanding. Life rich with purpose, because we built it with our own understanding. The world is chaos. Empires rise and fall. Fortunes are made and lost in a day. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Stoicism, born in the ancient porches of Greece and hardened in Rome, offers a different kind of purpose, a quieter one. It teaches us that the key to a meaningful life is to live in agreement with nature, to stand like a rock in the ocean, letting the waves crash against you, unmoved. A Stoic views the world as a cosmos, an ordered, rational whole. Everything happens for a reason. There are no accidents. Our role is simply to play our part well. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, yet a man filled with melancholy, wrote in his private journals, his meditations, "Everything, a horse, a vine, is created for some duty. For what task then were you yourself created? A man's true delight is to do the things he was made for. We have a duty." This quote forces us to look at ourselves. We are part of a grand universal scheme. We are not separate. For Stoics, our duty centers on virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, self-discipline. They believed that the things we chase, money, reputation, success, they are indifferent. They do not define us. What defines us is how we stand, our character, our response to the fire. Take a baker. A Stoic baker finds purpose not just in the bread, but in the act of baking honestly, contributing to the nourishment of his city. And if the bakery burns down, if he loses everything, the Stoic does not crumble. He finds meaning in that tragedy by responding with resilience. He stands in the ashes and says, "This too is part of the plan." It is an empowering philosophy. It puts the power back in your hands. No matter how low you fall, no matter your station in life, you can choose to be virtuous. You can align with the logos, the nature of things. The result? Inner peace, a dignity that no tyrant can take away. You can look at yourself in the mirror and say, "I lived as I was meant to." Stoicism engages us because it focuses on what we can control, our will, our actions. By being a good person, by playing our part on this stage, we fulfill our reason for existing. By mastering our reactions, by accepting our fate, what they called amor fati, the love of fate, we find an unshakable peace. To fulfill your purpose is simple, but it is hard. Exercise wisdom. Be brave. Be just. Do it every single day. That is enough. The world is often a broken place, a fractured mirror. Confucius, looking out at the chaos of ancient China, saw the cracks. But he did not look to the stars for answers. He looked at us. He looked at the family, the village, the connection between two people. He found the purpose of life in a simple, difficult thing, virtue. Confucius famously declared, "Life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. We build mazes and then complain we are lost." For Confucius, meaning is not found in solitude. You cannot find purpose on a lonely mountaintop. You find it in the space between you and another. The context of life is relationship. Father and son, ruler and subject, friend and friend. He spoke of the junzi, the ideal gentleman, a person who is not noble by blood, but noble by spirit. This person follows benevolence, righteousness, respect. It is a quiet heroism. A key principle here is empathy, to feel the weight of another person's life. As one quote attributed to Confucius says, "Consideration for others is the basis of a good life." Think on that, the basis, the foundation. Life's purpose is not a frantic grab for self-interest. It is a weaving. We treat others with kindness. We fulfill our duties. The child respects the parent. The friend holds loyalty like a shield. The ruler cares for the people. When we play these roles with honor, the chaos fades. Society begins to breathe. It functions peacefully. Confucius also said something profound. To put the world in order, we must first cultivate our personal life. We must set our hearts right. It starts in the mirror. This philosophy touches the earth. It is practical. It ties purpose to the mundane. Being honest, being kind, doing your work diligently. Imagine a teacher. She does not just teach facts. She guides souls. She shapes good human beings. In her daily patience, in her small acts of discipline, she is living a life of colossal purpose. So Confucianism makes purpose social. It hooks us with a vision of harmony. If everyone does their duty, if everyone sweeps their own doorstep, the whole world becomes clean. It is a ripple of meaning, starting in your home and moving out to the very edge of the nation. We suffer. It is the universal truth. We want what we cannot have. We lose what we love. We grow old. Buddhism looks this suffering in the eye. It does not look away. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, saw that life as we live it is a wheel of dissatisfaction. We run on it endlessly. The purpose of life, then, is to step off the wheel, to escape suffering, to achieve a state of lasting peace called Nirvana. The Dalai Lama, a voice of modern wisdom, put it very simply. The purpose of our lives is to be happy. But do not mistake this for a fleeting smile. This is not the happiness of a new purchase or a warm day. This is the happiness of liberation, a deep, cool water for the soul. The Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, steps to walk, a way to live. As we walk this path, we shed the weight we carry. We reduce suffering for ourselves, for others. Imagine a man. He practices kindness every day. He sits in silence. Over time, the anger in his blood cools. The greed fades, chains of suffering, gives our life immense meaning. Buddha gave a simple, powerful analogy. A single candle lighting other candles. It loses nothing by sharing its flame. It only makes the room brighter. Buddhism engages us because it is open. It does not matter who you are. You can work toward this awakened state. You do not achieve purpose by acquiring more things. You achieve it by letting go, by waking up the goodness that has been sleeping inside you all along. So the instruction is clear. Wake up from the delusion. Be happy. Treat all beings with a gentle heart. A life that moves in that direction is a life well lived. History has misunderstood Epicurus. When we hear his name, we think of gluttony, we think of feasts, we think of excess. But the man himself sat in a simple garden, eating bread and cheese, seeking something far more elusive. He had a straightforward answer to the purpose of life: pleasure. But wait, he did not mean the pleasure of the drunkard. He meant ataraxia, tranquility, freedom from pain in the body and trouble in the mind. He famously stated that we are animals who naturally seek pleasure and run from pain, so wisdom is the art of choosing the right pleasures. In a letter to a friend, Epicurus wrote, "We call pleasure the alpha and omega of a happy life. Pleasure is our first and kindred good." The alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. It is nature's guide. But Epicurus warns us, not all pleasures are worth the cost. Some carry a hidden knife. Eating an entire cake is pleasurable in the moment, yes, but then comes the sickness, the regret, the pain. So he advised us to pursue simple, sustainable pleasures. Picture him, Epicurus and his friends, a small garden, the sun setting, a modest meal, deep conversation. They found joy in the basics. They were free from fear. They were free from the endless wanting that plagues us. That serene contentment was the purpose. He even suggested that the highest form of pleasure is simply the absence of pain, to be calm, to be healthy, to be unafraid. If you have this, even if you are poor, even if you are unknown, you have succeeded. This philosophy is a relief to modern ears. It reminds us that small joys, a walk at sunset, a laugh with an old friend, these are not distractions. They are the point. It challenges the idea that purpose must be grand, that it must be loud. Epicurus whispers that purpose can be quiet. It can be as simple as enjoying the gift of existence wisely. In essence, his message is this: enjoy life, but enjoy it smartly. Know that the greatest treasure is not gold, but peace of mind. A life that delights in humble pleasures is a life that has fulfilled its purpose. There is a rhythm to the world, a pulse. Most of us fight it. We swim upstream, exhausting ourselves against the current. Lao Tzu, the legendary sage, the old master, sat by the riverbank and watched. He saw something we often miss. He saw the Tao, the way, the natural order of the universe. He offers a perspective that feels almost like a sigh of relief. The purpose of life is not to conquer, it is to align, to live in harmony with this great, silent flow. He stated, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." Look at the forest. It does not panic. The grass does not strain to grow, and yet it covers the earth. The Tao is the natural flow of things. You can sense it, but you cannot hold it. It is like water. Rather than chasing a concrete goal, Lao Tzu invites us to just stop, to float. He praises simplicity, humility, contentment. One serene quote attributed to him is, "Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are." When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Nothing lacking. This suggests that the purpose of life might be reached the moment we stop striving, when we stop looking over our shoulder. True fulfillment comes from realizing we are already part of something vast. We are already whole. Lao Tzu loved water. He compared a wise person to water. It nourishes all things quietly. It flows to the low places that others avoid. It is soft, but it cuts through rock. Water follows its nature effortlessly. So should we. Imagine adapting to life's cruelties the way water adapts to a cup. Fluid, accepting. You suffer less. You achieve your purpose with grace. Think of the unhewn block, wood that has not been carved. Simple, genuine, not shaped by the artificial desires of society. The Taoist purpose is not fame. It isn't wealth. It isn't even duty. It is just being, fully and naturally. It is a paradox that hooks the mind. By doing less, we become more. If you've ever felt peace watching the clouds drift, you have touched the Tao. You have touched purpose. Union with the way of nature. Live modestly. Be kind. Let go of the ambition that eats you alive. The result is a life that feels whole. Lao Tzu reminds us of a beautiful truth. Sometimes, in doing nothing contrived, we accomplish everything that matters. Aristotle was a man who looked at the world and saw targets. The student of Plato, the teacher of kings, he taught that everything and every person has a purpose, an end, a destination we naturally aim for. For us, for human beings, the highest aim is not just survival, it is happiness. But be careful, he used the word eudaimonia. This is often translated as happiness, but means so much more. It means flourishing. It means a life fully lived. Not just a moment of pleasure, but a lifetime of excellence. Aristotle famously wrote, "Happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence." But how do we hit this target? Aristotle said we must live virtuously. We must build character, not overnight, but brick by brick. Habits. He spoke of virtues like courage, temperance, justice, wisdom, and he gave us the golden mean, the path between extremes. Courage is the mean between the coward who runs and the reckless fool who dies for nothing. By choosing the mean again and again, we hone our souls. We live in accordance with reason. And reason, he saw, is our unique human spark. Imagine an archer. He stands ready. The target is eudaimonia, that flourishing happiness. The arrow is your choice. Virtue is your skill in aiming. You release the arrow. Sometimes you miss the bullseye. That is life. But with practice, you improve. A life's purpose is to keep aiming true. To align your actions with virtue so that when you look back at the end, you see you hit the mark. Aristotle didn't forget the mind. He valued intellectual virtues, curiosity, understanding, a scientist searching for truth, a philosopher contemplating the stars. They are living purposefully. It is a compelling view. It is relatable. It doesn't reduce your life to one single moment of glory. It is about how you live on a Tuesday. It is about how you live when no one is watching. Think of someone you respect, someone honest, kind, hardworking. Over time, that consistency brings them a deep, solid satisfaction. They flourish. Aristotle would point to them and say, there is a person who has found it. Build good habits. Nurture your talents. Treat others well. Do this and you fulfill your purpose of becoming a fully realized human being. Now, we step away from the heavens. We step away from the ancient mystics. We look at ourselves. Humanism. It believes the purpose of life is not handed down from a mountain. It is not written in the stars. It is not decreed by the divine. It is built by us, with our own hands, with our own hearts. This philosophy, rising from the Renaissance and standing tall in the modern world, centers on us, human values, reason, agency. In the humanist view, we are the architects. We created ourselves. A striking statement from the Humanist Manifesto, too, rings out like a bell. No deity will save us. We must save ourselves. It is a heavy realization, but it is also freeing. It captures the belief that it is up to human beings to give their lives weight. We must solve our own problems. We must wipe our own tears. In a world that humanists see as natural, unsupervised by gods, Purpose is something we forge through our choices, through our love. As the saying goes, good without a God. It implies we can live a noble, purpose-filled life guided simply by conscience, by a love for humanity. Another line reminds us, human life has meaning because we create and develop our futures. We create. In practice, what does this look like? It looks like an artist pouring their soul into a canvas to make someone feel less alone. It looks like a teacher burning the midnight oil to lift the next generation. It looks like you helping a neighbor simply because it is right. Humanism engages us because it hands the responsibility back to us. It doesn't give you a single answer. It gives you a blank page. It says, right. It is empowering. It is a call to craft a life that you find valuable. Yes, the freedom can be terrifying. The silence of the universe can be daunting. But humanism views it with a brave optimism. We are the authors of our story, so make it a good one. And now we arrive at the edge of the cliff. Nihilism takes the most extreme position of all. It looks into the dark and sees only the dark. It asserts that life has no inherent purpose, no meaning at all. The word comes from the Latin nihil, which means nothing. To a nihilist, the values we cling to, the goals we chase, they are dust. We are tiny specks in a cold, vast universe. Nothing we do echoes. Nothing we do lasts. One definition of existential nihilism states that it is the notion that life has no intrinsic meaning or value. It is a chilling thought. If nothing truly matters on a cosmic scale, the question rises like bile in the throat. Why get out of bed? Historically, thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche stared into this abyss. He saw the decline of belief. He saw the coming storm. He warned that without a higher purpose, we would face a crisis of emptiness. The nihilistic perspective whispers that there is no moral law. There is no script. It can lead to despair. It can break you. But some take it as a challenge. It forces the question, if the universe refuses to give us meaning, can we dare to live without it? However, the pure nihilist might shrug. They might say any meaning we invent is just a fairy tale we tell ourselves to sleep at night. An everyday example of this thinking is the person who, broken by tragedy, looks at the sky and concludes, why bother? In 100 years, who will care about any of this? Nihilism is thought-provoking. It is unsettling. It is the ultimate anti-answer. It forces us to either accept the void or find the strength to fill it. In our search here, nihilism is the shadow we must consider. It reminds us that not everyone agrees life has meaning. Whether you find this view bleak or bracing, it hooks the mind. It pulls you in by the sheer gravity of its pessimism. It asks the hardest question of all. Can you face the possibility of no purpose? And if so, what now? And then there is the dynamite, Friedrich Nietzsche. He did not want us to find peace. He did not want us to be comfortable. He saw the modern world becoming weak, safe, and small. He looked at us and demanded more. To Nietzsche, the purpose of life is not to survive. It is to overcome. It is to create yourself, to sculpt your own character out of the hard rock of existence. He called it the will to power, not power over others, but power over oneself, to master your fears, to master your instincts. He knew that life is full of suffering. He did not deny it, but he believed we could transcend it. He famously wrote, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how, a why. If you have a purpose that burns inside you, the pain of life becomes fuel. It ceases to be a burden and becomes a ladder. But where do we find this purpose? We do not find it, we create it. We must become the poets of our own lives. Nietzsche despised the safe path. He despised the herd, the people who just follow the rules and keep their heads down. He urged us to embrace risk, to embrace the chaos. He shouted, "Live dangerously. Build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius. Send out your ships into uncharted seas."
Do not hide from the volcano. Build right on the edge. It is a terrifying command. It means we should seek out challenges. We should welcome difficulty, because it is only in the fire that strong steel is forged. A life without risk, to Nietzsche, is a life already dead. He envisioned a higher state of being, the Übermensch, the overman, someone who has conquered their own nature and created their own values. This is not a life for the timid. It is a tragic, beautiful climb. He pushes us to the limit. He says that comfort is a disease. The goal is greatness, even if it destroys you. In fact, he sees a beauty in that destruction. He said, "I know of no better life purpose than to perish in attempting the great and the impossible." To perish attempting the impossible. There is a glory in that failure that success can never touch. Nietzsche's philosophy is captivating because it is dangerous. It wakes us up. It grabs us by the collar. It asks, are you just existing, or are you becoming something? Are you walking the safe road, or are you sailing into the dark, uncharted water? The purpose of life is to say yes to all of it, the joy, the pain, the terror, to embrace it all, and in doing so, to become who you truly are. If nihilism is the silence of the universe, existentialism is the human shout back at it. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus accepted the void. They agreed that the universe does not care about us. They agreed there is no pre-written plan, but they refused to surrender to despair. Sartre famously declared, "Man is condemned to be free." Condemned, because if there is no divine script, there are no excuses. We are thrown into this world, terrified and alone, and we are forced to choose. Existence precedes essence. We exist first. We are just flesh and bone. And then, through our choices, through our actions, we carve out our essence. We decide who we are. This freedom is a burden. It is a heavy weight, but it is also the only thing that is real. Albert Camus took it further. He spoke of the absurd, the conflict between our desperate desire for meaning and the silent, cold world. He compared the human condition to Sisyphus, a king punished to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down. Pointless labor, futility. But Camus did not see this as a tragedy. He saw it as a rebellion. He wrote, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy." Happy. Why? Because Sisyphus owns the rock. He accepts his fate, and in that acceptance, he conquers it. Existentialism tells us that purpose is not something you find hidden under a rock. It is an act of rebellion. You create meaning in spite of the absurdity. You love, you create, you drink your coffee, you help a stranger, not because the universe tells you to, but because you decided it matters. It is a heroic philosophy. It says, "The world may be meaningless, but I am not. I will live. I will choose, and that is enough."